You can be talking to a woman who really likes you and is thinking of you in a sexual and romantic way, but then if you ask one of the following questions, her interest in you can suddenly plummet. Her perception of you suddenly changes and she's just not interested anymore. Now, what you'll find is that you've most likely asked women a couple of these questions, but it's important that you know the other ones so you don't ever ask them, and you'll understand why. I'll explain why it's needy and why it turns women off. All right, so let's begin with the first one. How often do you go out on dates? I mean, you probably have a line of guys interested in you. This can seem needy to the woman if she assumes that he is insecure about where he stands in comparison to other men. Right? If she's getting a lot of attention from other men, then is she going to like a guy like him? It can also suggest that he might be jealous already. All right? He is looking at her and he feels like there's going to be so much competition for her and he's already jealous. So if she were to get into a relationship with him, he might become the sort of guy who doesn't want her to go anywhere, doesn't want her talking to anyone, and is constantly asking who she spoke to, where did she go, who was there, and so forth. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that if a guy asks that question, he's going to be one of those guys. But if a woman has had some experience with it and has gotten into a relationship with a needy guy who became controlling and possessive and so forth, she'll want to avoid that because it's not a fun experience to be in a relationship where a person is very needy, controlling, and overly possessive. The next one, am I your type appearance-wise? Be honest, I can take it. This is needy because the guy is basically asking the woman to tell him if he looks good. It shows that he's not sure about himself and needs her to say that he is attractive. So someone like that, whether it's a man or a woman, actually becomes a bit of a burden in a dating relationship or a serious relationship because of their insecurity and need for validation and approval and reassurance. Right? So if a woman is always wanting reassurance that she looks good, that can be a bit annoying for a guy, but it doesn't necessarily make most guys feel turned off by the woman. In fact, many guys actually like it if their woman does look good, but is actually a little bit insecure and needs his reassurance. But it doesn't work the other way for women. Women don't like it when a guy needs their reassurance and isn't confident enough without their reassurance, and I'll explain why later. So the next one, you don't think I'm boring, do you? I hope you're enjoying the conversation. Here, the guy is basically fishing for her to say that he's interesting, good to talk to, and so forth. It's needy because he's not confident in his own personality and the value that he brings to the interaction and wants her to reassure him. Next one, can you promise to let me know if you're not interested? I hate the idea of not knowing where I stand. This one shows neediness because it potentially shows that he is scared of being rejected. He wants her to tell him straight away if she doesn't like him, which shows that he's insecure. A confident man who knows how to attract women during a conversation isn't going to ask that because he knows that the behaviors that he is displaying and the personality traits that he is displaying, such as confidence, masculinity, charm, charisma, humor, social intelligence, and so on, is making the woman feel sparks of attraction for him. Attraction is an automatic reaction to attractive traits. So when you display attractive personality traits and behaviors, women can't help but feel attracted. So there's no need to try to get reassurance of, oh, can you let me know if you're like, don't find me attractive and so forth? Am I your type? And so forth, because it's not about that. Right? You're making the woman feel attracted. And when she starts to feel sparks of attraction for you, she actually looks at your physical appearance in a positive light, right? So if a woman isn't normally interested in guys who have no hair and have gone bald, in many cases, she will often think something like, well, I don't normally go for bald guys, but this guy is sexy. If a guy has a big nose, it's actually quite endearing. I like his nose. If he's of this race or that race or whatever it may be, she's thinking, well, I actually really like this guy. He's a turn on and so forth. And she likes him because he's making her feel sparks of attraction by displaying personality traits and behaviors that are naturally attractive to women. And then she starts looking at him through the lens of attraction. Her perception of him is changed because she's feeling attraction. She starts looking at him in a positive light, looking for things that she likes about him, looking for things that are endearing, cute, sexy, and so forth. Next one. So what's your type? Do I fit what you're looking for? This can be seen as needy because she senses that he's trying to get approved by her, right? He needs her to let him have a chance. Am I your type? Like, do I pass the test? Do you approve? Right? He comes across in that way, even if he tries to hide his neediness that's on the inside by saying, oh, so, am I your type? Am I the sort of guy that you're looking for? Deep down, it's still there that he's asking if he's her type. If a guy wasn't needy, he wouldn't be asking that, right? He wouldn't be that needy to try to get a chance with her, right? He'd be interacting with her, making her feel attracted. And if something happens between them, so be it. If it doesn't, he's going to be fine without her. That doesn't mean a guy should act like he doesn't care about women, never show that he likes a woman, never show that he wants a woman, and so forth. But coming from deep down within him should be that he doesn't need her. He wants her, he finds her attractive, but he doesn't need her. If him and her don't get together, he's going to be fine. The next one, are you seeing anyone else right now? Just curious, I like to know these things. This question can be seen as needy because it's like he's already worried about other people she might be dating. Since they're not yet having sex or in a relationship and he's just talking to her for the first time or on a date with her for the first time, it can suggest to her that he might become a very possessive type of boyfriend who has trust issues and may end up becoming a bit of a nightmare for her to be with. The reality is, though, that sometimes a woman will have other options, just like a man will have other options, and he'll be sleeping with other women, but then he meets a woman that he really likes, and yes, he has been sleeping with other women, but then if he really likes her, he stops and gets into a relationship with her. So when a man meets a woman, she may be talking to some other guys, or she may actually be dating another guy that she's not that serious about. Right? She's been hooking up with him for a couple of months and she's not that serious about him, but she has just been catching up with him because she wants some company, right? She doesn't want to feel lonely and so forth. So if a guy then asks, are you seeing anyone else right now? I'm curious. I'd just like to know these things. It's not something that most women will want to admit, and it's not something that most women will like to be asked because it's got nothing to do with him and her, right? If she likes him and feels a lot of attraction for him and starts to fall for him, then all other guys are gone. Right? She's just going to focus on him and she'll want to be with him. So it's really nothing that he needs to be concerned about if he has just met her. But if a guy is concerned about that, it shows a woman that he is potentially a needy guy. He's potentially the sort of guy who is going to lock onto her and be very possessive, very jealous. Then that's not going to be a fun relationship. It's much better if a woman gets with a guy who is more relaxed and emotionally independent and is able to give her his trust and is able to see that she finds him attractive, she's falling for him, and they get into a relationship and they continue on together as an exclusive couple. The next one, I get really attached to people quickly. Does that scare you? This is a needy thing to say because he's basically warning the woman that he gets clingy. It shows he depends a lot on the person that he's dating. Next, you're not going to ghost me after this, right? I've had that happen before and I don't understand why it happens. He's showing neediness there by being worried that she'll stop talking to him. It shows that he's scared of being left hanging and needs her reassurance. Next, I'm not like your ex, am I? I just want to make sure that I'm not being like him. That's a needy question to ask because he's too worried about being compared to her ex and wants to be perfect for her. It shows that he's not confident in his own value and is focused on her past and hoping to live up to her standards. And finally, quick replies via text mean a lot to me when dating someone. Are you usually like that with your texts? Or this is needy because he's basically asking her to reply to his messages quickly and be ready and available to talk to him at any time. He needs her there. He needs that readiness, that availability. It can also seem like he needs constant contact to feel okay when he's dating someone, which can be a bit too much. Right, so the thing is, if a man is talking to a woman for the first time, or if he's on a date with her, and she's asking something like, oh, I'm not like your ex, am I? I want to make sure that I'm not being like her. That's not something that most guys are going to feel turned off by. Right? They don't mind if a woman is feeling a bit unsure about herself and wants to please them, right? Most men have no problem with a woman wanting to be on her best behavior and please them. Yet, it's not the same for women, right? Women don't want a guy who is being like a puppy dog and trying to do everything right for her. And now am I a good boy? Now do I get a pat on the head? Now, as I said, though, a guy can say it in a cool guy type of way where he's saying, look, I'm not like your ex, am I? I just want to make sure I don't want to be like him. A guy can try to act like he's being cool and indifferent and relaxed about it and so forth, but the question is coming from a deep insecurity. and a neediness where he needs her to approve of him. He's trying to live up to her standards. Am I a good boy now? Now do I get a pat on the head? That's what's essentially coming across, and that's what is essentially turning her off. Yet if a woman is saying, am I a good girl now, and she wants to be a good girl for you, you're most likely not going to be feeling turned off by her. You're most likely going to be feeling turned on by her because you want her to be a good girl. You want her to do things for you in the bedroom. You want her to want to please you and so forth. So it's important to understand that what men feel attracted to in women is completely different to what women feel attracted to in men. And for some guys, they might feel like it's a bit unfair, that they shouldn't be needy around women. You know, why can't I just be the needy guy that I am and then women like me for it and so forth? But it's like the things about women that men find unattractive. If women then start complaining about that and saying, why can't I do this and that and be unattractive and then men just like me for it, we're going to say, no, we don't find that attractive, right? And it's the same thing for women. The things that they don't find attractive and they don't want. Now, that's not to say that a guy who has some neediness can't get laid or get a girlfriend, but if you come across a woman who is pretty, who's attractive, who has had some experience and who wants to find a truly confident guy, or just knows that instinctively, even if she doesn't have much experience, she just knows that it's better for her to be with a confident, emotionally independent guy rather than an insecure, needy guy, then she's going to reject guys who are needy and insecure, right? So those sort of women are usually the prettier ones, the more attractive ones, and so forth. And sometimes a pretty woman or an attractive woman makes a mistake and she gets with a guy who is needy and she finds him attractive for other reasons, so she gives him a chance, or she's just like a lot of women are, and that is, they are very easy, right? If you are making them feel some attraction and then you ask for their phone number, they usually give it. If you then text them in an attractive way or call them up, whatever you prefer to do, and set up a date, they usually say yes and they usually attend. And if the guy moves in for a kiss, they're usually open for it. And the next thing the woman knows, she's in a relationship with a guy who has a lot of neediness deep down, but he's trying really hard to hide it. And that gradually starts to come out. He starts to become insecure, very jealous, overly protective, and in some cases even a bit aggressive towards her because he doesn't know how else to make sure that he controls the situation and ensures that she doesn't cheat on him or she doesn't talk to anyone else or doesn't look at another guy. You know, some guys are really full on about that. They don't even allow their woman to look at another guy. They freak out about that. And that's just not fun for a woman. Not only is it unattractive to a woman, but it can actually be quite a scary experience for her. So they much prefer to be with a man who is emotionally independent, meaning that he doesn't need her. He wants her, he finds her attractive, he pursues her, he makes something happen, but he doesn't actually need her. The same then applies in a relationship where the man is being attractive, he loves her, he respects her, she loves him, she respects him, she feels attracted to him, he wants to be with her, but at the end of the day, if she starts being a pain in the butt, if she's not treating him well, he doesn't actually need to stay with her, right? And she can sense that. Just like if you're in a relationship with a woman and you can sense from her that if you don't treat her well enough, she doesn't actually need to be with you and she could leave. You can sense that without her even having to say it, right? A man who is truly confident and is emotionally independent makes a woman feel that, and she senses it and then wants to be on her best behavior. She wants to continue to be attractive, respect him, love him, and be a good woman in the relationship. So the thing is, these are very subtle things about attraction that a lot of guys don't really ever think about or figure out, right? They interact with women and they think, well, it was going well, but then she just suddenly lost interest. And in many cases, it's about something subtle he said and the meaning behind it. He said what he thought was just an innocent remark, an innocent statement. He asked an innocent question. Right? He was just asking, and her interest was so high in him, and then it just suddenly plummeted. Right? So the thing is, when it comes to women, you have to understand what attracts them and what turns them off. And then when you understand that, you naturally display the type of behaviors that are attractive to women. And by the way, that doesn't mean that a guy is not being himself. He's putting on a fake act to try to get women interested in him. Instead, the sort of behaviors and personality traits that you display to be attractive to women are actually beneficial to you too and make you feel better. right? So you feel better when you're confident versus insecure. You feel better when you are masculine, right? When you're emotionally masculine. In other words, you have courage, you have balls, you have that inner strength versus having an inner weakness, having fear, being timid, and so forth. The traits that make women feel attracted are beneficial to you and to women, right? So it's simply about understanding how to display those traits which are naturally available to you, and stop displaying the traits which are also naturally available to you but are detrimental to you, are going to cause you problems, are going to turn women off and make you feel worse about yourself. So don't be afraid to develop and get used to displaying the sort of traits that naturally attract women. It's going to be beneficial to you in terms of how you feel about yourself and how other people perceive you. It's going to be beneficial to you in terms of how much women feel attracted to you. And it just makes life feel so much better as you go through it, because you don't have the insecurities, you don't have the anxiety, you don't have the timidness and so forth. You have strength, confidence, emotional masculinity. You have that courage, you have that feeling of inner strength.